Have you ever wondered why lust feels so dangerous, yet so powerful? Why a single spark of desire can drive you to madness, distraction, or even destruction, yet, in the same breath, it holds the fuel for your greatest transformation. The truth is this: lust is not your enemy. Lust is raw, primal energy that, if mastered, becomes the very force that builds empires, awakens genius, and forges unshakable willpower. But if you remain its slave, it will shatter your focus, drain your strength, and leave you chained to the lowest version of yourself. In this video, you're going to discover the alchemy of lust, how to transform your deepest desires into unstoppable power. By the end, you'll understand why lust is the most misunderstood energy in human existence, and how your ability to master it decides whether you live as a servant to impulse, or as a creator of destiny. Lust is not just about sex. Lust is the hunger to possess, the urge to consume, the craving to merge with something outside of yourself. In its rawest form, it feels dangerous because it strips away logic and ignites your instincts. It pushes you to chase without thinking, to want without end. But here's the paradox. The same fire that burns you is also the fire that can forge you. The secret is not to kill lust, but to transmute it. This is where the ancient art of alchemy comes in, the process of taking base energy and turning it into gold. When you feel lust, your body is flooded with energy. Your mind sharpens, your heart races, your focus narrows. Most people waste this surge by chasing temporary pleasure, scrolling through endless images, falling into addiction, or numbing themselves with distractions. But the one who learns to hold this fire without spilling it gains a hidden advantage: control of life force. This is why throughout history, from the monks who practiced celibacy, to the warriors who withheld indulgence before battle, to the visionaries who turned passion into art, lust was seen as both a curse and a gateway to greatness. They understood what modern culture hides from you, that lust is not meant to control you, it is meant to fuel you. Think about it. Why do the most disciplined people, the ones who rise above the ordinary, often speak of mastery over the body? Because they discovered that the energy locked inside desire is the same energy that powers focus, ambition, creativity, and dominance. When you redirect it from chasing momentary pleasure into building long-term vision, you step into the realm of transformation. This is not about denial, it's about redirection. When you resist the urge to waste energy on instant gratification, you don't lose, you gain. You begin to notice sharper clarity in your thoughts, stronger drive in your goals, and a magnetic presence that others feel. That's the beginning of the alchemy of lust. And here's where most people fail. They believe lust is purely physical. But in reality, lust is spiritual. It's the raw hunger of your soul for expansion, for creation, for power. If you bury it, it turns into shame. If you indulge in it blindly, it becomes addiction. But if you harness it, it becomes transformation. This is why you must ask yourself, will I remain a slave to lust, or will I master it and turn it into the fuel that builds my destiny? Because the truth is, every great man and woman who ever achieved something extraordinary faced this exact choice. And only those who chose mastery discovered that lust is not a weakness. It is the doorway to untouchable strength. Now that you understand lust is raw energy, the question becomes, what do you do with it? How do you stop it from draining you and instead convert it into the kind of fuel that builds empires, fuels creativity, and awakens your higher self? This is where the ancient practice of transmutation comes in, the art of redirecting energy from one state into another. Just like fire can destroy or illuminate, lust can either enslave you to your impulses or empower you to rise above them. When you feel lust surge inside you, understand this: your body is generating life force, an intensity of energy that most people let go to waste. They release it instantly, chasing a few moments of pleasure, and with it, their power, their focus, and their drive. But if you can hold it, if you can stand in the storm of desire without collapsing, you begin to unlock a hidden strength most people will never know. Think about athletes, fighters, and great leaders. Why do so many of them practice discipline not just in their work, but in their private lives? Because they understand that every time you withhold, every time you channel lust into effort, into training, into creation, you multiply your force. Your energy is no longer scattered. It becomes directed, sharp, unstoppable. This is what Napoleon Hill called in Think and Grow Rich the mystery of sexual energy, that the greatest leaders, inventors, and creators had the ability to redirect their desire into their vision. They weren't slaves to lust. They were masters of it. But here's the hard truth: transmutation is not easy. It feels like holding fire in your hands. Your mind will scream, your body will demand release, your impulses will try to drag you back to comfort. And this is where most people fail. They break under pressure. But if you can resist, if you can channel that fire into movement, into focus, into your craft, you begin to notice something extraordinary. Suddenly, you don't just want pleasure, you want progress. You don't just crave release, you crave power. And people around you will feel it. They'll sense an intensity in your eyes, a magnetism in your presence, a clarity in your speech. Why? Because you are no longer leaking your energy into meaningless distractions. You are storing it, condensing it, and directing it. This is why ancient warriors practiced abstinence before war. Why monks fasted and withheld. Why artists locked themselves in solitude to create. They were all performing the same inner alchemy, taking raw desire and burning it into strength, vision, and mastery. So here's the key: when lust rises, don't run from it, and don't indulge it. Redirect it. Go train. Go create. Go build. Lust is restless energy, and if you don't give it a higher channel, it will consume you. But if you do, it will transform you. Because the truth is this: the man or woman who can master lust does not just master pleasure, they master life itself. They walk differently, they think differently, they lead differently. They become untouchable. If lust is raw energy, then your mind is the battlefield where victory or defeat is decided. Most people are not destroyed by lust itself. They are destroyed by their inability to manage the psychological weight of desire. Here's what happens: lust hijacks your brain's reward system. When you feel desire, dopamine spikes, urging you to chase immediate pleasure. Your body is designed to reward you for reproduction and survival. But in the modern world, this ancient wiring is constantly exploited. Pornography, endless scrolling, hookup culture, all of it hacks into your primal instincts, flooding you with easy rewards while draining your willpower. This is why so many people live trapped in cycles of lust, because every time they give in, they reinforce a loop in the brain. Desire release numbness desire again. It becomes addiction, not because lust is evil, but because the mind is enslaved by patterns of instant gratification. But here's the truth most won't tell you: lust itself is not the enemy. Your relationship to it is. When you live as a servant to impulses, lust owns you. But when you step back and see it for what it really is, raw fuel, you realize you don't have to obey every signal your body sends. You can master the mind that interprets those signals. This is where self-control becomes your greatest weapon. Not self-denial, not repression, but control. The ability to pause when desire rises and ask, how do I want to use this energy? Do I waste it in a fleeting moment, or do I channel it into something that builds me? This battle is not just external, it's internal. It's the clash between your lower self and your higher self. The lower self wants comfort, release, indulgence. The higher self wants growth, discipline, transformation. And every time you resist temptation, every time you hold the fire without letting it consume you, you strengthen the higher self. You rewire your mind to prefer power over pleasure. This is what Jung would call shadow work, facing the parts of you that crave, hunger, and desire, without letting them control you. When you acknowledge your lust without judgment, you stop being ashamed of it. And when you stop being ashamed of it, you can finally master it. Because you cannot master what you deny. Most men and women lose this battle because they never confront themselves. They hide from their own urges, pretend they are above desire, or fall into cycles of guilt and indulgence. But mastery begins with honesty, to admit your lust, to see it clearly, and then to choose consciously how to use it. Imagine this: every time lust rises, you have two choices. Release it instantly, or redirect it into building strength. One path makes you weaker, the other path makes you unstoppable. Over time, these small choices shape your destiny. Because here's the hard truth: greatness is psychological before it is physical. If you cannot command your mind, you will never command your life. And the one who can master lust, who can hold desire without being owned by it, has already won the inner battle that most people lose every single day. If you've followed this far, you already understand lust is not weakness, it is fuel. You've seen how it can destroy when wasted, and how it can transform when mastered. But the highest level of this alchemy is not just control over yourself, it's the ability to direct that energy into creation, influence, and spiritual awakening. At its core, lust is life force. It is the same energy that births children, builds civilizations, and drives human beings to create art, music, poetry, and technology. When you master lust, you don't just gain discipline, you gain access to a creative current that flows through everything in existence. This is why the great inventors, leaders, and visionaries radiated intensity. They were not drained men or women. They carried inside them a condensed fire, and when they spoke, created, or led, others could feel it. That is the magnetism of retained energy, the aura of someone who transforms desire instead of wasting it. But here's the higher secret. When you take lust and elevate it, it doesn't just become fuel for ambition. It becomes a bridge to your higher self. Why? Because resisting impulse forces you to operate from clarity, vision, and discipline. You begin to live less like an animal and more like a creator. You rise above the body and begin to command the body. This is what spiritual traditions across the world hinted at. In yoga, it's called brahmacharya, the redirection of sexual energy into divine awareness. In alchemy, it's the transformation of base metals into gold, the metaphor for base desire into higher wisdom. In psychology, Carl Jung hinted that integrating your deepest desires into your conscious self was the path to wholeness. The higher alchemy of lust is this: you realize desire is not just about you. When harnessed, it becomes the fire that inspires others. It becomes leadership. It becomes art. It becomes vision. It becomes a spiritual force that connects you to something larger than your own cravings. Think about it. The leaders who inspire movements, the artists whose work stirs souls, the warriors who command respect, they all carry a kind of power you can feel but not explain. That power is transmuted lust. It is raw desire turned into clarity, presence, and force. And this is the choice laid before you. You can live like the masses, trapped in cycles of craving and release, always chasing the next hit of pleasure, never building anything lasting. Or you can rise into mastery, turning every spark of desire into fuel for your vision, your strength, and your awakening. Because the truth is this: lust will never leave you. It will always be there. But it doesn't have to be your prison. It can be your fire. And once you master it, you step into a level of power, creativity, and spiritual depth that most people will never even taste. That is the alchemy of lust. Not repression. Not indulgence. But transformation. Desire into discipline. Lust into power. Fire into destiny. It's easy to talk about alchemy and transformation in theory, but what does it look like in real life? How do you see this battle of lust play out in your everyday world? Let's bring it down to where you live, work, and struggle. Scenario 1, the midnight scroll. It's late at night. You're tired, restless, and instead of sleeping, you pick up your phone. One swipe leads to another. Soon you're scrolling through images, videos, temptation in digital form. Your body responds, your mind races, and suddenly the energy of lust is boiling inside you. At this moment you have a choice. Most people give in, release, and fall asleep empty, drained, and ashamed. But what if you did something different? What if you put down the phone, sat in silence, and redirected that surge of energy into writing, brainstorming ideas, or even training your body? The same fire that would have burned you out becomes the fire that builds you up. This is everyday alchemy, turning distraction into discipline. Scenario 2, the gym versus the couch. You just got home from work. You're tired. You feel the pull of comfort, the couch, the snacks, the easy escape. But underneath that, there's another pull, lust disguised as craving. It's not about sex, it's about wanting to indulge, to consume, to avoid effort. Now imagine instead of collapsing into comfort, you hit the gym, or you channel that restless craving into a side hustle, a project, or studying a new skill. The same energy that could have gone into decay goes into growth. You feel stronger afterward, sharper, more alive. Again, this is alchemy in motion. Scenario 3, relationships and attraction. Think about the magnetic person who walks into a room and commands attention. They don't have to say much, but their presence is undeniable. Why? Because they carry retained energy. They're not leaking their power into constant indulgence. They've learned to hold it, to radiate it, to transmute it into confidence and clarity. On the flip side, you've also seen the person who chases every attraction, who can't control their impulses. They seem restless, distracted, even desperate. That is lust in its rawest, uncontrolled form. One radiates power, the other radiates weakness. Which do you want to be? Scenario 4, the creative spark. Have you ever noticed that some of your best ideas come in moments of desire? That energy rising in you doesn't always need a physical outlet, it can become inspiration. Many great artists, musicians, and writers throughout history confess that their work was fueled by sublimated passion. They didn't deny their lust, they redirected it into creation. You can do the same. Instead of chasing quick fixes, you can sit with your hunger, let it sharpen your focus, and turn it into art, business, or vision. The same energy that could have been wasted becomes a legacy. And this is the reality. Every day, you face small moments of choice. The late-night scroll. The decision to work or waste time. The temptation to indulge or the discipline to build. These are the places where the alchemy of lust happens. Not in some faraway temple, not in a book of secrets, but in your daily decisions. Every time you choose mastery over impulse, you are not just resisting, you are transforming. You are building power, presence, and a future that ordinary people will never touch. So ask yourself, the next time lust rises, will you waste it, or will you alchemize it into the fire that forges your destiny? That is the true test. And that is the real-life battlefield of desire. So here's the truth. Lust is not here to destroy you, it's here to test you. It's the fire that asks, will you be consumed by it, or will you master it? Every time you choose discipline over indulgence, every time you redirect your desire into creation, you rise above the masses who live chained to their impulses. You become sharper, stronger, more magnetic. You begin to carry an energy that others can feel but cannot explain. This is the alchemy of lust, transforming raw hunger into clarity, into vision, into power. And the one who masters this path doesn't just change their life, they change the lives of everyone they touch. Remember, you are not meant to kill desire. You are meant to command it. To turn lust into fuel. To turn temptation into strength. To turn fire into destiny. If this message has ignited something inside you, don't let it fade. Carry it with you, live it, breathe it. And if you want more wisdom like this, more lessons on discipline, power, and awakening, then make sure to subscribe, like, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because the journey doesn't end here. This is just the beginning of your transformation.